Commissioner Haran, can you hear us?
I can hear you now. It was muted before.
Great. Okay. Did you happen to get my email regarding the statement for AB 2449 participation?
Yeah, Chair Pfaff, I request to participate remotely under 2449 because I tested positive for COVID, preventing me from participating in person.
Great. And do you, per state law, we have to notify the public if you have any persons aged 18 or over in the room with you? Do you have any persons?
No, I'm alone.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Unless objections from the commission, we accept Commissioner Haran's request. Agenda item number 4, approval of the minutes. We have meeting minutes to review and approve this evening from the December 11th, 2023 regular Planning Commission meeting. Are there any comments, changes, or discussions regarding the minutes? And if not, do we have any motions?
I move to approve the minutes of, oh my, let's see if I can read that one. December 11th, 2023.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Pfaff and a second by Commissioner Camarado. May I have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Camarado,
Aye.
Commissioner Horan,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Commissioner Shores,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
and Acting Chair Lowenthal.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0-0-0. Agenda item number 5, approval of the agenda. Staff, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda this evening.
Do we have any recusals? Seeing none. Can move on to agenda item number 6, public comments, non-agenda. Members of the public may speak about any item not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to suggest an item for future Planning Commission agenda may do so during the public comment period. The Ralph Brown Act, the state local agency open meeting law, prohibits the Planning Commission from acting on any matter that is not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on any item that is not on the agenda? Or did we receive any public comment emails?
No public comment emails for non-agenda items.
Seeing none, we will move on to the next item. Agenda item number 7, study items. There are no study items for review tonight. Moving on to agenda item number 8, consent calendar. There are no consent calendar items for review this evening. And moving on to agenda item number 9, regular action. Item 9A, 234 Victoria Road. If you are the applicant and are attending the meeting via Zoom, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear the staff report, please?
Yes, the applicant is proposing to replace the existing single-unit dwelling and attached garage at 234 Victoria Road with a new 2-story single-unit dwelling with a detached garage. The Planning Commission reviewed this application as a design review study item on December 11th of 2023. Commissioners had favorable comments, but also recommended that the applicant consider continuing the proposed stone veneer to the right of the front side of the house to make it look more complete, reduce the size of the stairwell window on the right side of the house, and move the proposed front gable out further. The applicant submitted a response letter dated December 14th, 2023, and revised plans dated December 19th, 2023 to address the plan comments and suggestions. In summary, the applicant is requesting design review for a new 2-story single-unit dwelling and detached garage. Design review criteria and suggested findings for design review are included in the staff report. The applicant is in attendance to answer questions, but first I'm available for questions of staff.
Do we have any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you'd like to add about your project?
Oh, let me bring him in.
They'll be joining by Zoom.
Hector, you go ahead and speak if you can hear this. He's been brought in, but he's not unmuting, so I'm not sure if he's having issues on his end.
Okay. Well, we can move on. If he comes back, we can reopen it. I guess we can't have questions for a non-existent person. So do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on this item, or did we receive any public comment emails?
No public comment emails for this item.
Okay, well, we're going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have any comments or motions?
I would like to comment. Well, first, I would like to say I apologize for not being able to chair this meeting, and my very kind colleague has offered. I had my eyes dilated and I can't very well see, but I am very familiar with all of these projects. So just so you feel comfortable. I did want to say I very much appreciate the changes made on the gable and the front, which didn't look right to me, and they I think look much better. And I think it's a really good looking project. And I'm happy to make a motion if there's no one else. Is there anyone else who wants?
No, I appreciate the changes at the applicant.
Excellent.
Make your motion.
Okay, so I would like to move to approve this item to 234 Victoria Road as submitted.
I'll second that motion.
Great, we have a motion by Commissioner Pfaff and a second by Commissioner Say. Any discussion on the motion? No? May we please have a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Horan,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Commissioner Shores,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
and Acting Chair Lowenthal.
Aye. So motion passes 7-0-0-0. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $784, which includes notice costs. All right, on to item 9B, 1826 Loyola Drive. If you are the applicant and are attending the meeting via Zoom, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communication regarding project?
I did have a Zoom meeting with the applicant.
I did as well.
I also had a Zoom meeting with the architect.
Great. Let the record also note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear the staff report, please?
Yes, the subject property is an interior lot that contains an existing one-story single-unit dwelling and an attached garage. The applicant proposes first floor and second floor additions to the main house and an attached ADU. The project requires design review and a hillside area construction permit. Project was before the Planning Commission as a study item on July 10th, 2023. The applicant has made changes to the project based on the commission's comments at that hearing, and those changes were detailed in the response letter that was part of the attachments for the project. The applicant also had story poles installed and certified for the project. There are suggested findings for both design review and hillside area construction permit and staff report, and I can take questions of staff at this time.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none. I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
Hello, my name is Daniel from Four Architects. Good evening, commissioners and staff. Appreciate your time tonight. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. Happy New Year, actually, as well. We're here to present for the single-family home renovation project for 1826 Loyola Drive on behalf of the clients. We appreciate the opportunity to follow up on our design study review that we had in July 10th last year for the project, and the opportunity to address the feedback we received from the project. Since that hearing, we've worked with the homeowners on updating our proposed design for the project and actually incorporated all the feedback that you guys provided into the project while still retaining the overall modern aesthetic of the design for the project. During this period, also, we worked and diligently reached out to staff as well as commissioners to review our project individually through Zoom meetings. I appreciate that we were able to meet with many of the commissioners, so thank you for that. Tonight, I'd like to spend a little bit of time reviewing the planning response letter we prepared that we also put together with the package for the entitlement plans to show how we address each of the commissioners' items and with respect to the project. So we're just going to go through each of those items and then talk about our response to them. The first response was the revisit the garage door design and shape. It doesn't feel heavy and needs more balance. We revised the garage door design for the project. We removed the triangular panel on top of the garage door and are proposing an 8x16 garage door for that location specifically. Next comment, the building looks too flat, requires more depth. Consider some eaves, overhangs, and use of different materials on larger surfaces. We really appreciate this comment actually, and we took this to heart. And our revised design today actually takes this comment and incorporates a lot of wonderful design elements. We are adding new eave gutters to the actual home on all sides to provide extra depth, shadows, overhangs, and protections for walls. So the eave gutter is a continuation of the roof itself. It extends about 8 to 10 inches proud of the building, and it actually brings in a lot of more character to the space as well. To further enhance the depth, proportions, as well as interest in the project, we also added another material. We're taking the stucco and adding that to the first floor level. And on the basement level below, we are actually using fiber cement panel. Similar material, but different way to actually break out the proportion of the space a little bit to provide extra interest and depth for the space and minimize the size of the overall mass a little bit. Both design elements put together, we believe, actually improve the depth and interest of the home. So we appreciate that comment and added that to the actual project to make the project better, actually. Design comment number 3, provide a front overhang to the front entrance. We did that as well. We are proposing a 3x8 a metal blade that would provide that overhang at the front entrance at the ADU. That's also the same metal blade aesthetic that we actually have for our bay window and then for the signage in front of the garage too. So we're taking elements of design and tying them together for the project. Concern about the wood material. We are actually able to find a wonderful faux wood material, fiber cement panel from Nishida that we want to propose for the project. This is on sheet A6.1 for the project, and it looks fantastic. We have samples of this material. It looks like wood, but you get the durability of a fiber cement panel. So that's what we're proposing as the accent material for the project. Thank you for the comment as well. Comment number 5, concern about light pollution at the rear and right-facing windows fenestration. Consider buffering with some landscaping. Specifically for this comment, we actually went back and studied the viewports and view angles of the actual house in relation to homes around us for the projects we prepared, sheet A6.3 and 6.4 specifically for this. Our project specifically in relation to Castaneda Drive is about 250 to 300 feet apart from each other, separated by a wonderfully large 40, 50-foot grove of trees. So there's a big giant buffer between us. The elevation's about 60 feet tall from Castaneda Drive and Loyola Drive at the minimum. And at the current point right now, you could see the top of our roof barely because of the viewport, view lines from Castaneda Drive. When we put the actual story pose up, same thing. You'll see the top of the home minimally, but that's again the same situation. We are proposing adding more landscape in the backyard and adding a 3'6" small fence to change the view angle so that as you're looking up from the Castaneda Drive, you actually won't see anything but the very tip of the building because of the angle it's being viewed at. So we have that documented in drawings for you as a project. On the east facade of the building, on A6.4, we show the existing condition of the home. It is a hip roof construction building with no direct views into our house. So there are no direct. That said, we still revise the design of the home to have smaller window fenestrations. This is for specifically window I, G, and H for the project. Proposed sconces, we did add proposed sconces to the submittal so that you could see what we're looking at. It's vertical blades, which also match the design aesthetic that we're talking about throughout the home, the dark metal sconces. Story pose for the project, we did story pose. I think a lot of you guys saw the story pose. We took a look at that as well, and we saw the tip of the home, Castaneda again. So consider passive ways to reduce incoming heat, whether it be trees or some other way to manage incoming trees and heat. We reduced the size of the fenestrations, I, G, and H, quite significantly. A new tree has been added to provide more privacy as well as shade in the backyard, specifically at that center portion right there. And then we are very, very open. We are already proposing insulated windows, but also very, very open to using higher solar heat gain coefficient windows if needed, as well as interior sun fenestration components. And then the next three comments are actually comments that we received from our previous neighbors, HUD review comments that were in the commission. Has there been a geotechnical studies performed for the project? There was a geotechnical study performed at 2022 for the project, specifically for this project. And it was deemed that the project site is actually, with the proposed project, is suitable for construction. And it's actually going to be much better than the current shape of the project because it meets today's building codes. So it's going to be a much better condition. We will be working with building department next step to talk about that in engineering, that specific portion of it. Neighborhood review comment number 2, is there any views for the east-facing home for our project? There again is no viewpoints between our home and their point because it overlooks that roof specifically. Also, in addition to that, there's an existing fence out there that's quite tall that separates both homes in this location. That fence is not being changed. In fact, we're adding more landscape buffers to our side of the property to make it even a little bit more private as well. So as condition, as is now, you can't even see through the fences. The third review comment is, how does the exterior building complement the traditional design and styles of the rest of the homes on the street? So as with all designs that we do for our project, we take context and site in relation to our project very, very deeply. What we did was we studied the fact that most homes, actually all homes on the east side of Loyola Drive, are built of gable and hip roof constructions. And that's what we're proposing again for this project. All the buildings on this side are 1.5 story buildings. That's also contextually what we're proposing on the side. They use stucco and wood materials. That's also what we're proposing for the location. What we're doing is we're building this house in a modern fashion because of the current times, current technology, and the current desires of the project, a modern home. But with the understanding that it is respectful of also what contextually is in that area. So that's what we're proposing for the project. Just as many other homes being proposed in Burlingame, this is actually something that you guys do appreciate modern homes. I've seen that around the city as well. That was the last neighborhood review comment. I think that in summary, what happened is that based on our last commissioner hearing meeting, The feedback we received from the staff, homeowners, commissioners, we actually do appreciate that and actually made our project better. And we believe that what we're proposing today fits and meets the city's development standards as well as the zoning ordinance for the project. So thank you for your time and consideration. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much for the thorough presentation. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I had a question.
Mhm.
Daniel, on that painted metal awning over the front door,
Mhm.
is that, I can't see it too clearly where it looks like it's directly underneath the gutters of the standing seam metal roof,
That's correct. It is directly into the gutter.
and it's gonna protrude from the face of the house, face at the front door out
3 feet.
3 feet.
Yep.
I'm just kind of curious how that's gonna be maintained, kind of how water is gonna spill over it and how, water is gonna drain off of it, off the front face or the edges.
Mhm.
Did you put any thought into simply just extending the roof itself to act as that eave extension?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, Commissioner Jose. What happens is that in this context and this location, the roof slopes are differ from each facade of the building. So because the roof slopes differ and they're not the same slopes, if you extend anything past the gutter eaves that we're putting in, the eaves, in order to intersect, will come out at different angles and different depths, as most commissioners realize that by doing that, you would have uneven eaves and awkward intersections that come out on the eave. So in order to solve that issue, we are proposing the gutter eaves, so it only occurs at the edge of the building, as with many architectural buildings. But we are using the metal blade to provide protection at that location. The gutter itself that we are proposing will catch the bulk of the water that's coming off the roof itself. The only water that's going to be impacted is the one that only hits the blade itself, which is that 3x8 piece right there. And that will slightly slope to the front or the sides.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah. I want to keep going on that one.
Mhm.
What's supporting the blade?
It's tied back into the home itself, so it's cantilevered from the house itself.
Because it just, from the drawings, it looks very thin.
Mhm.
I don't remember seeing the section through it, but, and so you say it's gonna slope forward
Mhm.
rather than to either side?
We have the option of sloping it forward or to either side, but it's a straight blade that's really thin. It's as with most modern design with the window fenestrations with blades, they slope in one direction. It is cantilevered from the home itself, supported back by headers and blocking within the actual building itself,
Mhm.
waterproof with sealant in between.
Okay. You could do a straight piece across the front, which would give you the perception of straight,
Mhm.
but you could do a slight
Just a little bit,
with a ridge down the middle, but the ridge would be below the front piece, right?
yeah.
So from an elevation perspective, never see it, but then that would encourage and I agree, 80% of the water is going to get caught by that gutter on the roof.
Yep.
But it would encourage it to go to the planters on either side as opposed to down my shirt.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's fantastic. No, I appreciate
I
it.
don't- Because you wouldn't have to do a whole lot of slope, given how
Mhm.
small it is. And you'd only have to make it the same thickness you're going to need to make to support it.
I know.
So something to consider. I mean,
I-
I understand what you're trying to accomplish in
Mhm.
the simplest way.
Yep.
But the water coming off the front is usually the worst.
I agree. I think we would say, my comment to that is we'd be happy to incorporate that into the project.
And maybe somebody can prefab it for you, shop fab it.
Yeah.
And it is something that's just hung.
I agree. I think what you provide as far as feedback makes a lot of sense.
And I'm going to continue further. Going back to talking about the slope of the roof. So looking at your roof design, you actually have a unique element of the roof over the front door area does not attach itself to the remainder of that. I mean, I know you're trying to extend that ridge over and carry the same slope across to the right side of the house, But because the roof element intersects the of the gable at the front of the house, you can actually just change the slope of that standing seam metal roof, extend it further, and still meet up with your gutter line profile all the way on the three sides, and just avoid the blade altogether. If you look at your roof plan, I think you can make that work and make it simpler for yourself. The blade is right below the gutter, right? It's not like a 12 inches separate.
Mhm.
So you're basically at that same height
Mhm.
as the roof, but maybe you can take a look at that and see if you can just extend the roof, just modify your slopes. Because it is a unique piece that's not attached to the rest of.
Are you suggesting Commissioner say changing the roof slope of the building at at that location?
Just that element there over the front door, because it's not touching, it's not going to be intersecting. I know you're trying to keep the same slope going across the front, you want your ridge to be, your ridge is going to be consistent. But if you look at, or maybe if we can pull up that, your rendering on sheet A 6.1. It's A 6.1. Are you, sorry.
We're having some technical issues, so
Oh, you are.
I can't bring it up.
Well, we have the drawings here. Just something for you to take a look at. It might make it easier for construction.
I'm not quite sure I fully understood that, but let me see if I can respond to that. The slope of the roof in the front facade at the entrance of the building where we're trying to making the space a lot more welcoming. There's 3 slopes that occur. There's 4 to 12, 9 to 12, and 12 to 12. At that location, in order for everything to intersect at that location where the valley occurs, it has to hit that point. If you change the slope of that location, the whole roof changes in terms of design. It doesn't only impact one singular point. And the reason why we propose the eave gutters is because it's our way of providing an eave, but at the face of the building without having to, with being able to accommodate the multiple roof slopes for the project. And the intent of accommodating multiple roof slopes is because we did not want to purposely change the height of the roof. The top of the roof is the top of the roof what we're proposing today. In order to make that and keep that condition consistent, that's what we're proposing at that location. If you change the slope of the roof, I don't know how it's going to impact the overall height of the actual project because it comes out at different eave location connections. Hopefully that makes sense a little bit.
Yeah, it makes sense. I actually think you can still make it. I can draw it and show it to you.
Sure.
Bring it. Let's see. I'm gonna just sketch it over here. I'm sorry to take up all this time. I'm just trying to make it easier for you.
Are you proposing maybe just extending that 4 to 12, but kicking it in a little bit and then coming down?
Here, can I
Yeah.
show it to him?
Fine with-
Sketch.
Fine with-
I could come.
You can take a look at it. That's just my.
Just for the record, could we have a brief summary of what was discussed? So particularly Commissioner Horan can be aware and members of the public.
Do you want me to repeat? Show.
If you could just describe what
Oh,
you had drawn, just so we
no,
know.
Haran. I just. Can he see this?
No.
Not quite.
I just did a little red line sketch extending that one roof element over the front door a little bit deeper to incorporate the depth of the blade. It does slightly modify the slope of just that part of the roof. But because it's a unique element, doesn't attach to anything else, it seems that it could work. So I'm just proposing that as a potential solution to simplify the ability to have it overhang at the front door.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on this item, or did we receive any public comment emails?
No public comment emails on this item.
And there are no hands raised on Zoom.
Then I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have any comments or motions?
I'll go. I really appreciate the effort put in. We did spend quite a bit of time talking with you the first time, not in an attempt to make it difficult, but rather to really what we hoped would bring back a better project. And so I'm actually quite pleased with the overhangs and everything because it really is starting to add depth to the project that would have otherwise come out flat. So, and I think that it's still a good modern house. It's just not over modern. And I think that the roof pitches and everything and the single levelness of it does actually fit within that neighborhood pretty well, but yet still taking on that modern look, which there are quite a few in that area that are already doing it. So it's not like it's a whole neighborhood of traditional and you're going to be the only one. So I think you've done a good job. I think that some of the reduction in glass in some areas is going to make for a little less heat and a little more refined views. So I'm quite pleased with the overall changes, and I think it's going to be a good looking project. So I'd like to see it move forward. Any objections to me making a motion?
No?
I'd second that motion.
Okay, I make the motion that we approve this project as proposed.
I'll second that motion.
Great. Well, we have a motion by Commissioner Schmidt and a second by Commissioner Camerado. Any discussion for the motion?
No discussion for the motion, just also a call out to thank the architect for sheet A 6.2, where it was a side-by-side of original and revised. It'd be nice if that were a best practice that future submissions follow. It makes it a lot easier for us as commissioners, so thank you for that.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's a very nice set of plans all together. May we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Aye.
Commissioners,
Aye.
and Acting Chair Lowenthal.
Aye. So that motion passes 7-0-0-0. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $784, which includes noticing costs. Moving right along to agenda item
much.
number 10. Thank you very much. Design review study items. 10A, first one, 2204 Hillside Drive. Were any commissioners not able to visit this project, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communication regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear the staff report, please?
Yes, the applicant is proposing to replace the existing split-level single-unit dwelling at 2204 Hillside Drive with a new two-story single-unit dwelling with an attached one-car garage. The applicant is requesting a special permit for the attached garage. The project includes a new detached accessory dwelling unit, or ADU. Just for those who are not maybe familiar, per state law, review of the ADU application is administrative only. Staff has determined that the ADU complies with the ADU regulations. So in summary, the applicant is requesting the following: design review for a new two-story single-unit dwelling with an attached garage and special permit for that new attached garage. The applicant is available to answer questions, but first I'm available for questions of staff.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Is at the rear of the house is the first floor has a 11-foot plate height? I'm sorry, I forgot to bring my reading glasses. Cannot read anything here. 11.3 plate height? Correct, so that's
Perhaps we can ask the applicant only because I don't have the plans with me myself, so that is maybe
Yeah.
a good question for them to help answer.
that's my question mainly is that that doesn't have to come as part of the staff report. That doesn't need to be notated or doesn't require anything special.
Special permit.
Yeah, does it,
Yeah.
that plate height at the rear?
I'd have to see the plans, but generally, there's stipulated plate height for first and second floor, and anything beyond that, 11 feet would be beyond that would require special permit.
Yeah, so that's why I have the question, because it looks like it has the 11-foot
Is it part of the,
on the rear.
is it part of the ADU?
No. It's the back of the house
Okay,
on the rear elevation.
we'll have to check on that.
Okay.
Doesn't it say first floor plate height 9 foot?
But on the rear, it goes higher.
Well, we can ask the,
Yeah.
okay, well, we can ask them.
We can certainly look into that and get a response for when this returns. This is a study item at this stage.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you'd like to add about your project?
Good evening, commissioners. Thanks for having us. My name is Ryan Morris, Morris Architecture. I'm here together with one of the owners, Anshu, and I'll give you a little bit more color in addition to the staff report. So first of all, the neighbors have made an attempt to talk to some of their neighbors, or the owners have attempted to talk to some of the neighbors. So that is a work in progress, but we're wanted to make sure that we're working together with the neighbors. We have been through several design iterations before coming here. The owners have reduced the scale of the project from some more ambitious designs that you don't see here, but we were trying to get taller ceilings and bigger spaces and a basement. And so this is a more modest design than where we started. And I think it's come a long way to be just a great considerate project in the neighborhood with neighbors, privacy, sunlight, and fitting into the context of the neighborhood. On that note, we're in the Easton Addition. Recognize this is a more traditional neighborhood, and this design is not quite traditional, but I would also say it's not that strictly modern either. I think we have a successful design here that fits in with the scale and mass of the neighborhood, the roof shapes. We've got low sloped roofs on on both floors, and it's compatible with the neighbors on either side. It's only a 21-foot height, the total height at the peak versus the 30-foot allowed. That's measured from the sidewalk. It does, if you were to measure it in the backyard, it is taller than that because the backyard is below the street. But from the street, not a massive building. That's because of the 9-foot first floor plate heights and the 8-foot second floor plate heights. And yes, Commissioner, say you did see that right. The kitchen in the back of the house does have an 11-foot plate height because there's no second story above it. So we thought we'd ask for the opportunity to make one of the rooms a little more special with some taller ceilings back there. And then the last thing I'll comment on is the special permit that we're requesting for the garage. I understand this is a newer rule where we're taking into consideration the location of the previous garage. And if it's within 10 feet of the location of the garage we're tearing down, we don't need a special permit. This particular garage location is 2.5 feet more than 10 feet, so 12.5 feet away from its previous location. We didn't feel like that was a big ask, so we wanted to present that to you during this study session as a request for this special permit. I think it's still compatible with the intent of the code. We're trying to keep the neighborhood context alive with pushing the garage away from the street, and it's not a dominant feature on the front of the house. So overall, I think it's a nice, attractive design, and I look forward to hearing your comments and answering any questions you might have.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do, just because I can't find him. I'm sorry, because I can't see well. Maybe it's here and I don't see it. Am I to understand that your stone veneer, it's not just in the front, is it wrapping around?
I believe so, yeah. So
I can see on 3.3 one side, but, or no, that's the
3.4.
back. Oh. Oh. Oh, okay. So it's,
well, you're gonna see it on the side elevations. It's not on the back of the house, if that's what.
right. No, I want to make sure it wasn't just on the front and stopping.
Yeah, we are
Okay.
wrapping around the front of the house.
Yeah, and the other question I had was, I do understand on the side, you want to be respectful within the windows. I understand what happens with patterns of windows. I was just wondering, in the front, that looks very regular. Like, I just, I guess I wanted to know, did you maybe experiment with any other patterns of windows? It's like repetitive. So I just
Mhm.
wanted to know how you arrived there. Or is that your goal to be very geometric and symmetrical there?
Yeah, so on the front, are you looking at mostly the
I'm looking,
second story or the?
I'm doing my best. It was 8.3.1.
Huh?
So I think I'm looking at the front, yes. And
Sure,
looking at, there's 3 windows that are identical on the bottom
right.
and under which the veneer is, and then above you've got siding with sort of 2 sets of identical
Mhm.
designed window design and such.
Yeah, so we're happy to explore other options, and we have done that already. We arrived at this design to try and provide some measure of privacy. Those are 2 bedrooms on the second floor, and I think 4 full-height windows might be a bit much for the street-facing facade. So we were looking at a creative way to match up with some of the other window heights around the sides of the building,
Mhm.
those taller, skinnier windows, and then speak to the windows below with similar proportions to the living room below that. So,
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to know how you got there.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Commissioner Say.
So let's see. I'm trying to find something and it's your right elevation looks to be that the kitchen portion protrudes farther to the right side property line than the rest of that side of the house. But on the floor plan, everything runs along one line. It's,
yeah,
I mean, it could be that it's a material change, but I see in your rendering that it's actually proud.
that's so.
So just wanted an explanation there.
No, the floor plan should dictate there where we do not have a jog in the wall. And I see on the elevation, there's a line, and that would be a material transition. Looking for the rendering.
The rendering seems to show that is proud of there's a jog.
Okay,
Your bottom left elevation, number 3. I mean, not, the, I think.
and is that the 9.2?
On A 9.1, that bottom left
Uh-huh.
rendering.
Yeah, I think once again, you're just seeing a line for a material transition.
What, okay,
On the bottom,
so, yeah, so that's what I was wondering. So it could be a material, and that's what it, And what is the material transitioning from to? It looks, the drawings are printed kind of light, and so
Yeah.
it's hard to see.
Understand.
It's stucco to stucco.
We haven't rendered all four sides of the building yet. I think we would use either the wood siding that we have on the front of the house, balance that out with the back, or we would use another stucco texture.
Okay. And then so I already noted earlier about the plate height. I don't know.
Mhm.
That's something they'll just
Y-
get us for the next meeting.
Yes, so we have, we have noticed the project for a special permit already for the garage, but it will need one for the plate height, exceeding 9 feet on the first floor. Correct.
Okay, so like two special permits,
Correct.
one pay for one and you get two. Apply for two.
The price of one.
And then,
On that, you go ahead. I have a question to tack on to your.
yeah, go ahead.
So is this project pretty close to max? Or is that potentially an issue if they come back and want to do a second story and the first one's already there at the? They want to do another additional,
Max. Well, we did, the inside would only count, are you asking if the inside counts for,
no,
for,
if, I was just thinking if there's enough extra additional maximum square footage they could use, or FAR, I guess is the word,
okay.
on the house, and they came back, I don't know, I'm just running all these scenarios, if we're already doing a 12, is 11 foot?
11.
Yeah,
11.
11, then could they come back in a couple of years and say, actually, we'd really like to put another bedroom up there? I don't know how far maxed they are, but what happens then? Because we've already approved.
They would be subject to whatever the current code requirements are at that time, and our floor area hasn't changed. Or they would have to, none of the interior space is counted twice, so if they're at the max now and floor area doesn't change, they couldn't add to the second floor then.
But I guess what I'm saying is they already got the height, so then they could potentially do another,
There's not enough height.
Only
to
5
Have a
feet
second
left.
story, yeah,
was my,
yeah,
thank you.
not quite high enough.
Got it.
And there's no more FAR left.
There's no F, that's what I thought, yeah, FAR, okay, thank you.
I actually had a quick question for you on the rear of the house. I guess I'm not quite understanding what's happening with the deck. You have the stairway down and then you have this kind of terraced deck.
Mhm.
Is it supposed to be like seating or?
Yeah, like stadium seating. It's a smaller yard space, so we wanted a way to connect the deck space to the yard, and thought that would be a nice way to be able to sit and have conversation around.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just a little concerned about the building code there. I don't know if you can get away with that, with having that drop without a railing being that high up. I'm just an FYI because
Yeah.
The steps can't be more than, 7¾ inches, and then you have this kind of drop off. So it's just something to maybe consider before it goes into production.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Yep.
Sir.
The garage. Is it going to be a raised floor garage framed?
Most likely. We'll see what the engineer says, but there's no plans on having anything underneath it.
Okay. I've never seen a raised floor garage that isn't going down a hillside. Is that, I'm just curious as why you're switching from a split level with the garage already down lower
Mhm.
to then building up the garage to be at the same level as the first floor.
Yeah. So the garage as it is right now is awful. It's a really steep driveway. It's like a 4-foot change from the sidewalk down to where the garage is now.
Uh-huh.
And it's only 7 feet tall. It's real tight to get in there. That's something that they do not like about this property to begin with. And the main floor right now is 5 feet above the front yard. So you have to go up a bunch of stairs to get to the main level.
Right.
So the new design attempts to just bring the whole house down to the front yard level, flatten it all out, and not have these awkward transitions for driving into the garage.
Okay. So then, have you then thought that you would fill that area and then put a slab on grade for the garage?
Yeah, we could do that. It'll probably come down to cost and engineering about whether it's more effective to have a raised floor and put a thick 5-inch concrete slab, or just backfill it and put a slab over the dirt.
Okay, so my thought in this is that getting to that conclusion earlier, I know it's maybe not our purview on the engineering of it, but I'm not sure if you then have different civil issues of soil bearing for adding that in there, and
Mhm.
what does that do? Because hillside is not exactly level, it's hillside for a reason.
Yeah.
And so the side to side of what you do impacts the guy on the left who's at a slightly different level. So just wanting you to not necessarily put that off to the back and then find out it's going to change your whole design.
Sure. No, I appreciate the thought. I think 5 feet away from the fence and going up 4 feet. So I don't think that the pressure, the weight of that is going to impact a neighbor 10 feet away from it. And I've designed garage slabs both ways. So I'm going to rely on the engineer for that, but
But I would force
Yeah.
that a little sooner than later. So
Yeah.
when you do your section of that wall and you've decided what you're doing, what does that then do to that 5 feet? Does it make any changes to the neighbor on how you're impacting cut, fill, and engineering? That's all.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you wait a lot longer, then nobody has a chance to comment and then you have a mess later.
Sure.
So that's what I'm trying to avoid is the mess.
Yeah, well, we can certainly reach out and get that underway.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I do have one, on A3.1. I'm just trying to understand the front door. Is that, I can't see what that is going to be. Is that just a very, very wide front door?
That's
How-
correct.
How wide is the front door?
It is. Well, we don't have that published here. I think that is a 5-foot door approximately. It's one of those pivot doors. It rotates almost on the center axis.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that was my question.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who would wish to speak on this item, or did we receive any public comment email?
No public comment emails on this item.
Great. Then I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have any comments?
I do.
Commissioner Camarado.
So I think that, I'd like you to kind of revisit the windows. I agree with my fellow commissioners. There's the discrepancy on especially the front elevation. Having the different windows just feels like it's not pulling the house together. I don't have a problem with the garage being moved. I don't have a problem with the special permit on the garage. And I don't have a problem with the special permit for the 11-foot family room or kitchen family room in the back because it's kind of tucked back there. I agree about the deck. I think that back porch, it seems odd to have stairs and the porch. It's like, I want you to, I almost want if the deck is going to be there, you don't need to have the stairs. Let the deck be your stairs down. You can kind of put lights in it and make it beautiful and make it all one piece. Or close off the deck. The deck becomes its own entity and you have your stairs coming down. So some sort of difference there, I think will pull it together a little bit better. I also would ask that maybe when you come back on this next go around that you can provide some artist rendition so we can actually see a little bit more. It's It's easier for me if I have some artist rendition. I can kind of pull it together a little more so I can see what the details. And I'm going to say about the windows, I think all around, I'd like you to kind of look at these windows and what else you can do to pull these windows together. I feel like it's just a bit of a mix match, and I'd rather just keep it consistent throughout the house.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Say.
Yeah, I agree with, Commissioner Camerado about, the windows. There's some alignment. I don't know if I want to see more alignment or some better consistency of shape and operation type. There's a variety around the house. I mean, there's some nice order overall to the look of the house right now, but I feel that on Hillside, where there are so many, old world style homes and lots of are kind of older architecturally homes along that at least the front seems to want some more articulation, a little bit more shaping or massing, maybe others design details that might come through. It just seems to be fairly bland, although, I don't mind bland. I like modern, but there's just something not coming together for me, and I don't feel like it needs a design review consultant. I don't know. I would like to hear what the others of my fellow commissioners have to say about it. I have no problem with the garage, the attached garage being set back and being 12.5 feet off from the current garage. I also don't have an issue with the plate height at the back. I just wanted to call that out because it seemed like it was something that would have been identified. And the back almost seems to read better for me than the front. Almost if the house was reversed or something. But anyway, my thought is more about, because I think the back has some hipped roofs, and some articulation on the first and the second story. I think the front looks a little bit apartment building like, just kind of flat. Just not enough interest for me.
Can I go? I'm going to go. I'm going to continue because I agree with my fellow commissioners. Feel like this could be really cool, but it's just not there. And I don't think it's design review. I don't personally think it's design review material, but because I think there's something to rescue that could be really cool. To me, it looks, the second floor, and maybe because of the repetitive windows and they seem large to me. It seems to me, it seems top heavy. I can't quite figure out why, but it seems top heavy. And I just think, the consistency of the consistency of the materials and such should kind of be the same through. I can't tell. I guess these are moldings around the windows, but something else I was going to say about, the door. Maybe you could just provide a detail on that, because we like welcoming homes. It kind of looks like very solid and closed to me, just to have a big 5-foot wide door. I was wondering if there was some kind of a band that goes around for these transitions on A9.1, the front view. I can't tell. Actually, maybe it's just a faint. I think I answered my question. I guess there is siding. It's just a faint. It's a faint drawing, so it's hard to see. But I was just wondering, in the places where the stucco runs right into the siding, if there are any, what the finished pieces are. But just think it needs some cleanup and some more clarity is my opinion. Thank you.
I'll go.
Commissioner Schmidt.
I think that the front elevation reads pretty flat, because of the low pitches of the roof, which I understand, but it's just that's the way it turns out because they're very long, straight pieces and the same with the walls. So it could be that it just needs a little bit more depth in the articulation. You know, some details on the window trims would maybe help us understand, does anything come out from the siding? How do you get more depth to this? The 3D renderings help, but without color or more texture, they read pretty flat to us. So that might be a way that you could show a little bit more richness of what we're going to see. I think that, you know, the stone just looks like it's just a texture on the wall and it's in the same plane as the siding above it. And there's no cap because there's no shadow or anything happening. So I think we need to better understand the layering of the materials so that we can start to see more of that detail. I think that, you know, it does look top heavy on the second floor. That's because the roof around the first floor that goes up just doesn't go very high. You know, we're not seeing as much roof as we're used to in steeper ones. So therefore the siding looks big and then your windows look big. So there's some proportions there that maybe could be worked out that would maybe make those larger faces a little bit more reduced and help with the depth. I don't have any issues with the garage moving forward now that I understand it. I just want to make sure that, you know, that the structural pieces get worked out well. But I think window details, some depth. I think that there's an opportunity because you're not sticking to the vocabulary of hillside. We kind of are then trying to say, okay, well, how is it going to blend? And I think this 9.1 sheet is critical for us in being able to see the depth of the architecture being proposed. I agree. I think the architecture is there. We've got to have a better understanding of it for the next time around. And whether it's color or more texture or more shadows, this 9.1 is a huge deal for us. I think the front door, I'm not afraid of the 5-foot slab. It's just whether or not it's one just flat piece of wood. What is it going to look like? You know, is there a molding, a trim or an inset that goes to it? So it's not just one big looking like a piece of plywood door. And similarly, the doors coming out the back patio, I'm assuming they're glass doors that you would actually otherwise see in, but right now they're showing as white, which I'm not sure if that's because they're frosted or because they're paneled doors or something. So like I said, opportunity on that sheet to help us better understand because your elevations are going to come off flat too because they're just line work. So that's where I think that would be very helpful for us for the next time around.
You already saved the color. This is a 2D rendering, but there is a colored elevation.
Has it got a sheet number?
There was a 2.9 on the table of contents, but we only, or 9.1.
I don't.
Yeah, I didn't,
We-
You don't
I don't have that.
I don't have a colored rendering.
If it was 9.2, we didn't get it, yeah.
We just got whatever you submitted as planned. Unless did it come through?
Too.
But I,
Was it supposed to be part of the plan set or did it come in separately as an email?
Well, I think what probably happened is it's not part of the plan set, but it was part of the application package.
Oh,
Okay. We'll check with staff and see if that's available.
that could have been helpful, but thank you.
Did anyone else have anything?
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner.
I wasn't quite sure what to think of it when I was walking up and down Hillside past the site. But I think I kind of picked up on what Commissioner Pfaff was talking about. There's parts of this design that I realized have the DNA of the prairie style, which is from
Right.
the same time period as these other homes. I think that might have been, in fact, what you were actually going for. So I think that's the core, that there is a really, really good idea and design in here that I'd like to see more of. And so if that's what you're going for, I could tell, and I do like it. I think it just needs to be developed a little bit. That's all I was going to add.
Thank you. Yeah, personally, from a first glance, I like the design. Commissioner, similar to my fellow commissioners, right off the bat, the flatness of the second story, I felt like, well, maybe if you did like some box windows or, something that just brought out some texture there. But again, the color rendering, I think, is a game changer. So I think it's good enough to move on to action. I don't have any issues with the special permit for the garage. It makes sense to me. Sounds like we're gonna have to also approve the plate height for the kitchen great room, which also doesn't bother me. So I would make a motion to move this forward to regular action. And I find for the special permit for the garage.
I'll second that, but can I have a comment?
Absolutely.
The special permit for the plate height, I want to make sure that it's clear to the public as a whole that that is a room that's on the rear and it's not changing the scale of the front elevation, which is really the intent of that regulation, is to try and control scale from the front. We've had a lot of people proposing them and we've denied them. It's because it's changing that front elevation. This to me is not really doing that. It's a room in the back and it makes no change to our intent. So, right.
I agree. So we have a motion by Acting Chair Lowenthal, seconded by Commissioner Schmid. Can we have a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Horan,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Commissioner Shores,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
and Acting Chair Lowenthal.
Aye. That passes 7-0-0-0, and this action is not appealable. Great. Congratulations. Moving on to item 10B. 1025 and 1029 Cappuccino Avenue. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communication regarding this project? Seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear the staff report, please?
Yes, in 2017, the Planning Commission approved a project on this site for design review, conditional use permit, and front setback variances for a total of 4 units. And the design was 2 attached duplex units on each lot. The permit to build the original project has expired and the new owner is requesting design review, front setback variances, and a minor modification for parking space width for 4 units or 2 detached units on each lot. The site consists of 2 interior lots that are zoned R2. There's an existing underground culvert that runs across the site, extending from the front left corner of 1025 Cappuccino Avenue to the rear right corner of 1029 Cappuccino. There's a 10-foot public utilities easement that runs behind the rear property line of both lots. Public Works Division regulations do not allow any permanent structures to be built over the culvert or over the easement. The applicant proposes to demolish all of the existing structures on the site and to build 2 new detached 2-story condominium units on each of the 2 pre-emerging lots. All of the units will have attached garages except for the rear unit on 1029 Cappuccino Avenue. Each unit contains 4 bedrooms, and the proposed project exceeds the minimum parking requirement by 3 parking spaces at 1029 Cappuccino and by 1 parking space at 1025 Cappuccino. The average front setback for the block is 34.11 inches, and the applicant is requesting front setback variances to the first and second story of the front unit at 1029 Cappuccino Avenue and to the first floor only of the front unit at 1025 Cappuccino Avenue. A minor modification is also requested for the covered parking width in the attached garage of the front unit at 1029 Cappuccino Avenue. The proposed covered parking space is 9 feet in width, where 10 feet is the minimum required. The applicant provided an arborist report for the site that was updated October 21st, 2022. The lot at 1029 Cappuccino Avenue contains two existing protected size redwood trees at the rear of the lot, and these are proposed to remain with construction and to have protection measures installed. One of the three existing street trees in front of the site is proposed to be removed with the project, and the applicant has submitted a protected tree removal permit with the Parks Division for this tree removal. Each of the units has a different architectural style, and the proposed exterior materials for the 4 units are listed in the staff report. The architect and I believe the owners are present this evening to answer the commission's questions, and I can take questions of staff at this time.
Great, thank you very much. Do we have any questions for staff? Commissioner Camarado?
Do the buildings need to, are the setbacks of the buildings accurate as it results, as where the culvert is, how the culvert is running?
So no, the setback is based solely on the average of the block. So that's how we came up with the 34 feet 11 as opposed to a 15-foot minimum, which is required in the code.
Okay.
So it actually has, the 34 feet 11 has nothing to do with the culvert. But I think that it would be difficult to get 2 units on each site without extending into that 34 feet 11 inches.
Okay. Do we have any ordinance that talks about the setback from the culvert? Because I know Hillsborough, you can't be within 5.
Oh, I see what you're asking. I will check with our Public Works Division. It wasn't noted in their review of the project.
Okay. I was just wondering, if there was some concern with how that culvert runs.
Commissioner Fett?
I was gonna follow, I was
Go.
gonna follow on.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Say.
That was my same question too, but I see there's a whole set of civil drawings.
Mhm.
Are the civil engineers responsible for finding out if there's any setback to a culvert, like when they're designing their grading and drainage and
I've-
erosion plan?
Yeah, I would say that it's both for our city to notice, Public Works, and also for any of the civil engineers to investigate when they're designing. So perhaps the architect can enlighten us if they know about anything of that nature, if that's been researched already.
Yeah, and Public Works, I guess, didn't ask the question either to.
They didn't. I don't know if that means that they reviewed it and it met, or if they just didn't review that part. So I'll ask that and have that information for the action hearing.
Oh, that'd be great.
Commissioner Fett?
Yeah, similar. Well, I have a couple questions. First of all, regarding the odd setback, if it really has less to do with there being culvert, but just a block average, I just wanted to state that I think this is Easton 1, and these are a lot of them are very old homes, and they were earthquake shacks, basically. So I think people, our understanding is they built very small buildings, very simple way in the back of the lot, because they were going to build a real house in the front, and sometimes that didn't happen. So they're kind of scattered about, and looking at this, I think that's probably what happened on this particular lot. But I also was going to ask, I have 2 questions. First of all, is there, with regard not only sideways the culvert, but up and down? Because I note, I wondered if it was this owner or a previous owner or someone else who applied for those tree removals, and in particular, what reason was given for the Parks Department to remove the palm? Was it because it was over the culvert, or was there a problem? If someone could enlighten me, maybe it's the owner, I don't know, or unfortunately it might have been a previous owner. I'm curious about that. It's very unfortunate. So there's a twin tree down the block that I noticed, and there's then the one on Google that disappeared, but I was wondering about what happened there.
I can certainly look into that and get full details for you for the next hearing.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, and I'm going to open the public hearing. The applicant, please come forward and state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project. Bless you. Bless you.
Hi.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Greg Kawahara, the architect for the project. With me tonight are the owners, Nina Goswami and Paula Goswami. Very happy to be here tonight to talk about the project. I also like to extend a big amount of thanks to the Planning and Public Works Departments, as they were very open in considering the concepts of the project, considering the constraints with the culvert. And to address some of the comments and questions the commissioners had about the culvert, when the project was previously approved back in 2017, that project proposed those buildings to be as close as 2 feet away from the culvert. And building permits, I believe, were issued for one of those 2 lots at that time. So we're proposing something similar, as close as being as close as 2 feet away from the culvert. Public Works has, as part of their conditions, that's not in the staff report, that they wanted the culvert field verified before building permits are issued. So we're in the process of doing that currently, of exposing both sides of the culvert and getting the surveyor back out there to verify the locations of those, and verifying with Public Works, our soils engineer and our structural engineer, that everything will be adequate. And there was another question about the
trees, what happened there?
trees. Okay. So one of the conditions of Public Works has to us as the current applicant is that no new trees can be planted over the culvert with a minimum setback. I can't remember whether it's 5 feet or 10 feet away. So that's reflected in our landscape plans.
Can I continue to ask him questions? Is that okay? Is that okay? What about though the depth? I mean, is there?
How deep is that the top of the culvert from the finished
I
grade?
guess what I'm asking, were you the applicant to remove the trees on the parcel? Was it you or was it the previous owner? So
Previous.
a record of, I'm just trying to track, the way I'm looking at it is I
Mhm.
looked at the Google, because I noticed the tree immediately, not missing.
Okay.
And it appeared to me that, I might be wrong, but it appeared to me, I see twin trees are beautiful, that one was about in the vicinity of the culvert. And I was just curious if it had something to do with it, which may or may not have. But now that area is completely blank. There's nothing planned there.
Mhm.
And it's an opportunity lost. If you remove it, I'm sorry, I don't mean to accuse you, but would have been fabulous to have that twin tree there.
Got it.
Fill up that.
So is that tree that you're asking about, is that,
The pomp.
right, is that in the arborist report?
Yes, it just says removed. No,
Okay. Okay.
you can see the other ones, some look dead.
Okay.
Stand those, but
So I think this would help explain some of the sequence of items.
mhm.
So the survey that we've submitted was a survey from the previous applicant done back in 2017. So there are some trees that were originally shown on that survey from 2017 that sounds like they may have been removed. That's not in our arborist report. Arborist report, I can't remember the exact date, but I'm guessing it was done in 2022. So there's probably about 5 years from the time the survey was done to the time our arborist was out there to do an inventory. So it's possible in those 5 years that the tree was removed.
Well, maybe ask going forward,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of questions about the culvert. If you could inquire, or I'm saying for the record, it would really be nice to know, can something like a palm be planted above without this enormous base that's going all over the place? Something be planted, a tree on top of the culvert. I understand no building can be there, but I just want to know, I don't know anything about culvert. How deep are they? Maybe there's,
Mhm.
that's what I was asking, this direction.
Okay, so based on what Public Works has given us in writing in terms of their comments, any trees are not allowed to be planted over the existing culvert. So I think that question should be directed to the Public Works as to if there's any possibility of any types of trees,
Mhm.
shallow root systems.
Mhm.
They would probably also want to know, thinking out loud, what's the vertical distance from our proposed finished grades to the top of the culvert as well?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was my question.
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Were you finished with your presentation?
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any question.
Any other questions for the applicant? Yeah.
Do you happen to know if the culvert is it all enclosed or is it an open, do we know yet?
I know someone who walked through it for the entire length of the property. So he said told me it was tall enough to stand up in and walk through. So
Okay,
I cannot verify, but from what I've heard or what I've been told, it's 4 sides concrete, top, bottom, and sides.
okay. We've had a couple of these types of projects come before us, and one of the things that has occurred on like one of the projects that was on Linden was that they converted these townhomes into condos. So I don't know what your plan is on the property, but if do you have any intentions in converting these to condos, separate condo ownerships at any given time?
Okay.
Just to clarify, the proposal is for condominium units
All right.
right now. Yeah, there's a tentative condominium map proposed.
Okay.
As part of the.
Yeah, and that has to do with the density of the general plan.
Right.
We need to have each property remain a property, a single lot with 2 houses on them.
Right.
So then,
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
okay,
Good. All right, that's it.
okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on this item, or did we receive any public comment emails?
There is one public comment email that's come in during the meeting. There was also another public comment, another email that was sent to both the commission and also to the public comment inbox. So we'll read both. I'll start with the one that has come in during the meeting. It reads, I am quite concerned about the impact on our neighborhood from the proposed new condos at the above address. One, that many units will create the need for a huge amount of parking to be adequate. Another duplex on our block with 2 units with 2 bedrooms has 5 cars and 2 motorcycles. Additional living spaces required full parking. Number 2, the culvert under the property is deteriorating. Neighbors and my friends have explored the culvert last summer and spoke of large pieces of concrete fallen from the ceiling and walls with cracks everywhere along the way. Also, a large sinkhole has developed in front of the property. The driveways are warped and buckled. Please rethink approving the permit. Parking issues are important to the neighborhoods, and the deterioration of the tunnel under the property is a safety issue. Thank you.
And the second comment was received today at 1:49 PM. And it states, Planning Commission members, this is in regard to 1025 and 1029 Cappuccino item on the agenda for the January 8th, 2024 meeting. I am a neighbor on that block. Myself and several others are extremely concerned regarding any new development of this parcel for several reasons. Firstly, the tunnel running underneath the street and property is severely compromised. I walked the tunnel along with neighbor Tim Hall and Victor Vergara as recently as June 2nd of last year. A long section of the bottom of the tunnel is completely washed away with the concrete ending up down street into the back of Susan Button of 1016 Cappuccino. Because of the exposed dirt beneath, massive undercutting of the bottom and south side of the tunnel has occurred. Many yards of supporting infrastructure is now gone. It's only a matter of time before a sinkhole or total collapse of the street occurs, leading into 1029 Cappuccino. I urge the members of this commission, along with the city engineer, to walk the tunnel and see for yourselves. Hopefully, you can properly see the damage through the winter rain runoff. Especially keep an eye out for the south side of undercutting. Other red flags include a sidewalk sinkhole already developing and clearly observable in front of 1025 Cappuccino. We have had several other major incidents on the properties. A beautiful Canary Island palm tree was chopped down under false pretenses. This was a decades-old heritage tree that some phony arborists report stated was poorly maintained. The only issue the tree had were some older fronds that hadn't been trimmed back. The tree service crew that came to remove the tree reaffirmed to me the tree was in excellent condition except for the lower fronds, but they were being paid to remove it, so they did. Then a huge near disaster. The owner commissioned unpermitted backhoe digging, which resulted in his illegal crew breaking a gas main last summer. We nearly had a San Bruno type pipeline explosion. The fire department and PG&E responded to address it. I spoke with the PG&E supervisor. He told me that when he approached the crew to get information in writing his report, the crew ran off and left the scene. I asked why they would do that. He replied they must have illegal workers in violation of permits and business licenses. Another issue is a hired crew dug a large hole directly next to the sidewalk in front of 1025 Cappuccino. It was as large as a washing machine and probably 5 feet deep. It was left uncovered for days, putting the public at risk. I eventually called Burlingame Public Works to report it. They responded immediately and followed up to me that it was indeed a hazard, and they called the owner to quickly cover it up. These examples are just a few showcasing the total disregard the owner of the properties has for public safety and adherence to existing laws. Many developers were initially offered this parcel when it came up for sale. All declined for many, many months until the present owner saw dollar signs and is now trying to shove this parcel and his new plans down the throats of the good people of Burlingame. 2 more sentences. I hope the commission does the right thing and vetoes this project and closes our picture of the sidewalk sinkhole and a sister tree a couple houses north of the one illegally chopped down. Regards from a very concerned resident of our city.
Great, thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have comments?
I'd like to ask staff another question. Who's responsible for the culvert and the maintenance of the culvert? Or is the city of Burlingame?
No, the maintenance of the culvert is the responsibility of the property owner. And if you look at the various civil drawings, there's notes to that effect that that's something that needs to be part of the condition or the CCNRs for the project is the continued maintenance of that culvert.
Do we have, okay. Okay, thank you.
Can I piggyback on that one regarding the culvert? If it is in, I don't know, if it is in such a poor condition, would that also include rebuilding an entire culvert? Like if it's so badly damaged in sections, would that's kind of beyond maintenance, that's sort of a real infrastructure project. Is that then also their responsibility?
Yeah, I would want to defer to the Public Works Department to get a little more information on exactly how that works. So rather than guess, we can provide you that information in the future.
Sorry, I know I'm stuck on this culvert stuff, guys. Kevin, if will our sewer or our Public Works Department, will they go out and inspect this culvert and come up with kind of a report of their own to decipher if this culvert is in good shape, or is it whose responsibility is to determine what the shape of this if it's in good shape or bad shape, and how do you work through something like that?
I have to imagine that if what was described here is true, that they are aware of the issues on the site, but typically in these instances, what they do is they would rely on the applicant to have an expert, a civil engineer, someone do that work, and then they would review that report. And it may involve us, the Public Works Division, also then going out for an on-site inspection to confirm it.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just add also, Public Works does inspect building projects as they're under construction. So that's something that, as well as the building inspectors, the separate Public Works person looks at anything that's related to Public Works on a development project.
Is there an opportunity for the applicant and Public Works to engage in this exploratory work prior to us approving. I feel like if we send this to action next time and we push it through because we say, well, it's Public Works problem, it's not our problem because it's not architectural. But then the applicant ends up in a mess downstream where the culvert becomes much bigger. We've pushed it further along, and then it's gonna have to come back when they have to come up with a new solution to solve that problem. It just seems to me that there's a fair amount of unknowns. You know, and if Public Works has looked at this and says, hey, we're all good for this. Okay, I just would like to see a little nomenclature, a little letter here that says Public Works has reviewed the civil engineer's work and says it's good to go. But right at the moment, it does not appear that way to us. We're seeing civil drawings, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Public Works is in agreement and that this is a viable solution. So I don't want to penalize the applicant, but I also feel like us moving it forward without some substantial understanding of the culvert leaves us informed.
Well, so to answer that question, I mean, yeah, so the short answer is yes, right? So I think what staff is hearing is that the commission has questions about the culvert and how it impacts the design, how it can impact your ability to approve the project, right? And so I think staff's takeaway from, you know, this tonight's hearing, right, is to ask the questions, you know, to take away the questions that you have regarding the engineering side of the culvert, ownership, that sort of thing. So that, and then as part of when this comes back to you, right, staff is going to be prepared to answer those questions, perhaps bring in, you know, a representative from Public Works Engineering to also provide that technical, you know, the technical answers as well. So I think that's one of the takeaways that staff is getting from, you know, the round of questions tonight.
Yeah. I would ask that also Public Works not only looks at the culvert on this parcel, but as it's moving out to the street, I mean, is this an opportunity now for us, since we are doing a lot of this road work and storm drains and everything else, is this an opportunity where we can kind of tie in with the applicant if we see that this needs to be done, can we do some work there to ensure what's happening in the road as well? I know it's like, if we're opening it up, let's open it up and let's see what's going on and let's continue with some additional work maybe that we can.
Sure, sure. I mean, I think that part of what I'm hearing anyway from the commission is sort of an understanding of like the intersection of, you know, the private property owners' responsibility, right? And how that may be tying into where the culvert becomes the city's issue as well, or tying into current or upcoming CIP projects, you know, as for streets. So I think that that's part of the package that we take back to Public Works.
And I would say, given the rain that we had last year, I was standing over one of these culverts and it was full. I mean, every bit of that 8-foot pipe was full of water and rushing. So, yeah.
I was just going to say, in my experience in working with Public Works Department, that that part that you just mentioned, Michael, is typically connected to the project. It's not just the portions on the property, but all the connections to the city, which is why often they're asking that you replace a sidewalk, the driveway, the curb cut, and everything in connection to the city. So I would think that Public Works would have this under their purview or responsibility. But I know we have lots of questions because I also have all those questions about the culvert, but do I need to remind us that our purview here is to look at the design of the project and is it appropriate to do that in this hearing still, or are we at an impasse where we need more information in order to do so? Because the setbacks are based on the culvert and there are many things that are related to the geography of this lot. and the elements that are built into it.
Maybe, well, I want to add a little bit as he thinks about that answer. I feel like we would do the applicant their best favor that if we still gave our architectural advice relative to what they have presented to us. And that should Public Works come back and say the culvert changed things, that's fine. They still understand what we're interested in. And so that they might come back with a fuller package. Because I definitely have some architecture, the culvert's one piece of this. And I don't want to just send them away and say, go, figure that out. Because there's opportunity for them to come back the next time with a fuller package for us that addresses both the culvert issues, but then architectural.
Right, which is what I was saying. Do I need to redirect us back to what we're supposed to be doing as a planning commission?
I think we should move back to that
Mhm.
and
Let them hand,
and the applicant realize what they're going to need to do for the next application.
yeah. And it could very well be that they've already addressed all this. We just don't know all the paperwork that they have to go through as an applicant to
It could be
confirm that.
Is Public Works saying, we know,
Yeah, exactly.
give me the
We
thumbs
just-
up, then we'll move away from this, but it doesn't, we're not seeing the thumbs up, so.
We don't see those documents, yeah.
In that vein, then, is it appropriate, do you think, then, rather than a comment on the question phase of design, of some things on the design, is that appropriate or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, right now
Yeah.
we're on comments of the design.
we are on comments of the
We are.
design. I
Yeah.
thought we were on,
No, we're on comments of,
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got backward.
yeah,
Okay, well, then I'm gonna go. I'll go.
go ahead.
Right. Then I'm just gonna start where I made my little tabs, on, let's just start with A2.4, the east elevation of, I don't know if you've given them numbers, but the one that's on there. I'm trying to understand, there are two, parallel vertical lines that almost look like part of a chimney, but I'm not seeing what they're supposed to be on the top, on the lower floor of the east elevation on page A 2.4. So I'm not understanding that. I guess since we're not asking questions, I'll just do my whole litany. Then it's supposed to be a fireplace, but it doesn't come out.
Right here, there's a little bump up on 2.1.
They stop here?
Yeah, on 2.1,
Oh,
on the.
but it just stops? It just doesn't go up like a normal chimney?
It's hitting the underside of that roof.
Oh,
there.
okay. Well, I think that looks funny for a traditional area.
Buried in the wall.
Okay, so that, I think it looks funny. I don't know if there's good fake or whatever. And then on, let's see, on, A 3.4, which is the south elevation. I'm looking at the lower, the south elevation, the lower floor. I don't think it's resolved well with the, there's a series of four, I guess they're sliding doors. And then you've attached the, two double hungs all connected in one piece to the, construction of that door. And I think it could be definitely improved on with space in between, leave space and then your double hungs, or make just one larger double hung window or something. I think it doesn't look like the way a traditional house would have probably been built, in my opinion. And I think those were my big remarks. Oh, yeah, no. When you have, several of these they've got a lot of vertical, the sort of farmhouse look, and I like when you've got the, elevations that are, kind of separated with roof material, kind of to break it up. But then you have some other elevations like on A 1.4, the south elevation. I just feel like, that's going to need oh, what the height is. Yeah, it's substantial. I feel like it would be better to have a belly band or something kind of to break up those long verticals in there. And those happen actually on the west elevation, A1.3. Same thing with these big, almost like barn verticals. If you're going to do verticals all the way up and down, I don't know, I think it would look better, kind of less tall if it had a belly band of some sort, breaking it up. So, and I did make my comment about the lack of the regret I have about that palm disappearing, and also, but a question about that one corner there, what could be planted there, because it's really kind of bleak. So those were my comments. Thank you.
We're on comments.
We're on comments.
Close the public hearing.
We closed it.
I can offer a few thoughts. Just taking a step back, knowing that this is an R2 zoned area and the constraints of the location of the culvert, not questioning the condition of it. I actually think it's a pretty clever design. I don't have a problem with the setback. I think that 34-foot average is just a little bit artificial. When you look at this from a satellite view, a lot of the houses are actually up front. There's just a few that are so far back that it's driving the average up. So I don't have a problem with the setback of that one unit. Yeah, so I thought it was pretty clever to fit it within all of the constraints and get these in. To the question of parking, I think I counted a total of 12 parking spaces on site between covered and uncovered. So it does actually address a parking concern to a large degree from my math. The only thing that struck me was how much paver is driveway pavers are between the two housing units. So it just seems like a big expanse of essentially cold concrete. So there might be something kind of from a landscape architecture standpoint or use of different materials that could break that up a bit.
Thank you, Commissioner
I agree with Commissioner Haran, and so I won't repeat what he said. But I would like to see at the next meeting what could be helpful, because I think the elevations are drawn very nicely, but there are so many sheets that it's very hard to kind of compare one style house to another and what's next to the other. And if there was some way to arrange the drawings so that we're looking at maybe one side of the road with the house next to each other and same on the other side, some type of arrangement where it might be a little bit easier for us to kind of look at the designs and compare some of the elements one to the other. I do think they're very nicely designed overall. And another request is that for the renderings, this is a pretty big project. There are 4 homes here essentially being proposed, and we're looking at one small rendering and one that's covered with trees. I don't think the one with the trees is really helpful for us to see the design of the 4 homes. So maybe more renderings next time, a larger one, maybe a different perspective, so we can see kind of the collection of the homes better.
Yeah, I actually think the renderings are not helpful, which is not typical for me. I think that because we have 4 separate structures here, I think you need to have different views of each one, because there's 2 of the buildings I like and 2 of the buildings I don't like. And in the elevations for the 2 I don't like, don't at all sell them. So I'm struggling with how to like them. So I think that if you took an opportunity to, because like when you look at the back one, you need to be down the driveway to see them a little bit, and they're unusual shapes. I know it is a clever solution to try and resolve a challenging site. Totally agree with that. But what it has created is some odd shapes for us and not traditional houses that we see in this area. So I think we definitely need more views. The other thing is kind of looking at the site plan, we're not showing any of the adjacent structures on the other properties and how that relates to the 4 different buildings. And I'm trying to grapple with how each one of these buildings impacts the neighbors and where their structure is. So on the site plan, all it takes is a box to know where the houses are, but I don't know where they are. I also think that in trying to make the case for the setback, I don't have an issue with the setback, but a sheet similar to A07, I know that's for the fire hydrants, but that's a great sheet that doesn't have any other structures on it that would then otherwise kind of show us how the neighborhood works there and what the rhythm is and what this project is doing to the rhythm. Because there aren't any others on this area that have a middle street down the middle, divvying up 2 lots. So it's unique. So it'd be good to see, how are the buildings on 10, 33, 37, 41? And yes, a couple of them are odd, like you said, they're far back for no good reason now. But I'd like to be able to see that so that then when we're approving a special permit for that we're making it with informed information. The parking seemed fine to me. There is more than being required, so I'm not sure that the parking concern of the neighbors is any different than the parking concern of every neighbor everywhere, right? Where there's any work being done. As far as the 2 that I don't particularly like, the front one on 1025, the vertical siding, it's very vertical. They're 2-story, a lot of 2-story surfaces. So it's just not reading that well for me. Maybe in 3D it'll read better. And then the rear one on 1029, that one's not reading for me at all. So the other 2 though, even from the elevations, yeah, the proportion seems to work and I like it. But the back one or I guess what you're calling 1031, but the rear one, it's an odd shape. It has a lot of odd surfaces and a lot of odd roof shapes that I'm just not grasping in these elevations. So that would be a huge help. And the culvert thing, I would like to see that more resolved before we come back again. Because I think it would be better to come back with a full package that we can really get behind than to be halfway and not really understand if we've got all these things resolved before we move it forward. Thanks.
I'm generally very pleased with this design. I like how every house has a completely different kind of vibe going for it with materials and all that. I pretty much agree with all my other commissioners' comments. The only one that really stood out to me as needing a little bit of work was 1025, which is the one with the 2-story vertical board and batten siding. Other than that, I also think there's a lot of pavement in the middle. Usually when I see stuff like that, I assume it's because of fire code, so they can fit 3 fire engines down there if they need to. If it's not for fire code, it would be nice to see that reduced in some way. But other than that, yeah.
Yeah, as far as I go, I like the project. It's in the ballpark of what I would like to see. I totally agree though with the amount of pavement. It feels track house-ish, right? It kind of feels like each house has been pulled out of a track community, a nice one, and then the pavement just makes it feel like, we're in a track community, which I'm not exactly sure how to make that go away, but anything we can do to the design to soften that look, I think would be helpful, because we certainly don't want a mini track house in the middle of this neighborhood. As far as the setback variances, I totally understand that. I don't have any issues there. I think the parking is great. There's a lot of parking. So I think the neighbors who are concerned about that, I think they'll be pleased to see that parking. And then I would just say, as a builder myself, I mean, the general contractor is going to be, bound to the plans to build it safely and to code. And the general contractor relies on the structural engineer. The The structural engineer is going to rely on the soils engineer. The soils engineer is going to rely on the civil engineer to make sure the water is properly taken care of. And of course, the civil engineer has to rely on Public Works to approve their plan. So there's a lot of people involved here, and I totally understand the commission's concern here of this culvert. I would just say as a GC, we can't build these houses, we can't build all this without that level of approval and obviously information. So I totally understand the need to see that because the people in the neighborhood are very concerned. But I would just say you can't build this project without a culvert that is going to be substantial, that takes the water away, that Public Works is going to be okay with, that the soils engineer will allow the structural engineer to put the footings and the foundations and so forth. So, I agree with all the other comments, and I do think some of these units need a little bit of work, touch up, but I don't think it needs to go to design review. And so I'd be willing to move it on to action, but
So, I was looking at the driveway and I think I agree with my fellow commissioners that it's just looks a little too busy, too many pavers. I know that we have the culvert, but I'm wondering if you can soften it with even just some turf, like in the middle, like some of the driveways have this kind of grass down the middle, kind of making it soften that look a little bit. I'm sure that you could come up with some ideas, and I agree about the culvert. I'm just wondering, I think my thought is if there are issues going on with that culvert on that property, if there's also an opportunity for the city to pull in our piece, whatever's going on in the street, maybe that's now is the time to do that. So that's why I'm also thinking maybe financially, it might be nice for everybody to work together to kind of resolve this issue on that street.
well, do we have any motions?
Weren't you making one?
Was I making it?
Oh, I thought you were.
I certainly could. I have no problem making a motion to move this project to action item. And with the variance for the setbacks, the minor modification for parking, the condominium map, and the 2 residential condo units on each re-emerging lot.
I'd like to make a comment. I'm more of the thought that I'd rather see a continuance and allow them to coordinate with Public Works and some of our architectural feedback and come back with a coordinated effort to then make an easy jump to action. I'm concerned that if we come back to action, we're gonna have a gun to our head that it's gotta go. And we won't necessarily be able to get the finer tuning feedback that a project of this size might need once some of these other items are taken care of. So I don't know, I don't necessarily look at it as a punishment, but as an opportunity for them to come back with a little bit fuller package so that we can make an easy transition.
We can always continue an action as well when we're.
I
in
know, but we
action.
struggle with that.
I'm fine either way, but
I'm tending to feel similar to Commissioner Schmidt on this one. This is a lot of material to be dealing with, and I don't find it a ding on them. I think everything's informational, and it might drive a change in design too. So rather than do everything twice or 3 times, that's what I'm thinking.
And I'm willing to hear other sides of it because I think we're split on it a bit. And it's not the end of the world either way. I'm just,
Same number of steps.
probably.
Allow me, sorry to, through the chair, to interject. I am just looking now at the Public Works comments in the design review, and they do have quite a few mentions of the culvert. So I think at least there's some assurance that Public Works has looked at this. They have some conditions about the inspection of the culvert prior to construction. Also, as mentioned, the various conditions with the CC&Rs. So I don't think the notes don't answer all of the questions that you've come up with, but I at least want to convey that this is something that has been on their radar. One of the notes was mentioning trees need to be 10 feet back from the culvert. So I do think any trees need to be 10 feet back from the culvert. So it does look as though the senior engineer has put some thought into this, we can get answers for particularly the current condition versus I do see that the request to inspect the culvert is prior to construction, and that's not exactly what the commission is looking for. So we can try to, resolve that a little bit. But just to let you know that there are some plan check comments in there already.
So I would just say that, the applicant heard what we had to say. If we move it on to an action and they bring back essentially the same plan without a lot of color, we will be prepared to continue it. That'd be my only thing. Like I said, I'm kind of impartial. I don't mind bringing it back to design review again, but I feel like moving it on to action kicks the can forward a little bit.
I don't mind bringing it to action. I just want to make sure that we're answering the culvert questions. We're changing some of the design. We're getting some architectural details on some of the things that we've had answered. So I don't have a problem with that. I just want the applicant to know that we'll want to see that. And if we don't see it, then we're going to ask for it. So I'll second the motion.
All right, there we go. All right, so we have a motion by Acting Chair Lowenthal, seconded by Commissioner Camerado. Any further discussion? No?
Nope.
Okay.
Good.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Commissioner Shores,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
and Acting Chair Lowenthal.
Aye. So that passes 7-0-0-0, and this action is not appealable. Okay. That was 10B. We're moving on to 10C of design review, 925 Howard Avenue. Were any commissioners not able to visit this project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communications regarding this project? Any recusals? No. Let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we hear a staff report?
Yes, an application for commercial design review and front setback variance for exterior facade changes and a first and second story addition was approved by the Planning Commission on August 10th, 2020. The applicant never submitted a building permit application for this project, so the planning entitlements have since expired. This resubmittal is very similar to the previously approved project. The exception would be a slight increase to the proposed second story, increasing by an additional 138 feet from 531 feet to 669 feet. The project summary is facade changes for first and second story addition to the existing building. The existing building footprint would remain unchanged. There would be a bit of a filling in on a portion of the first floor within the existing recess at the front of the building. And then the second story addition would be located at the center of the building. The staff report goes into some items that I won't go into here, particularly related to the commercial design review and the variances and the parking, but we can answer questions if there are questions. So in summary, the request is for commercial design review for exterior facade changes and a second story addition to an existing commercial building and a front setback variance for a first floor addition. And the applicant can answer questions if there are any, and I'm also available for questions of staff.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions for staff?
I do. I can't find it right now, but am I understanding that an additional request was regarding the width of the garage door? That it was becoming wider than like 2 feet wider? Did I read that somewhere as a change?
Well, let me see.
Looks wider.
I don't see it here, but we could verify that with the applicant as well.
Oh yeah, here it is. On their Feldman architecture. Although the parking, it's on the staff report. Although the parking layout remains the same, the garage door size has been increased from 14 feet to 16. That remains the same. So the reason I asked that is because I was not on the planning commission then, but I remember this project and this is my neighborhood. And I thought that was, it's not included in the staff report, but if I'm not mistaken, the first folks that came with this, they also wanted the big door. And I think a comment was from this, whoever, half of the people here were on that commission, I think, about not making it wide. I just wanted, I'm not absolutely positive, but I recall the initial discussion. That's why I was surprised to see it wide again. But anyway, that was my question.
Okay.
Commissioner Pfaff, would you mind clarifying what section that is?
Oh, this section? Oh, you mean for today?
Yes.
It's just, it's a letter that I think, it's attached on, it's the project application on the back of,
Oh, I see. Yeah, Feldman
Okay.
Architecture.
just kind of a, copy of, from, Anjali Iyer, sorry, if I correct the, person's name. But it's number one, it changed and, the floor area got larger, but I'm not really sure in which direction it got larger, but anyway. Okay. So that.
Yeah, it's correct. They identify the three changes, one being the garage door going from 14 feet to 16 feet. And then the second story increasing by 131 square feet. And then the third is more of a comment. The second story footprint extends to the north, recessed from the main level. So that's more an editorial comment, I'd say.
Mhm. And then if I could just ask, and I can ask the architect this as well, but am I reading this correctly that on the Howard Avenue side, I see that there is a recess where the door is at an angle, but I'm having trouble seeing, is there a recess of the actual whole unit, the windows and the doors? Is it set back or is it really flush with the front face? Rely on my architect friend.
Maybe you ask the app.
I will ask that applicant. Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, then we're going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you would like to add about the project?
We are bringing in the applicants.
Good evening, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Anjali Iyer. I'm joined by my colleague Maria Bermudez here. We're with Feldman Architecture. I know we presented this project a couple years ago, and the clients, for different reasons, decided not to move forward with it. So we went past the window where we could submit a building permit in. I think we're gearing up to move forward with that step of the process. So here we are again. Some of the changes have really are minor, and they've come in just by way of value engineering and trying to find some savings for the client for this project. I'm happy to address a couple of the questions that were raised early on, if that's the right order of things.
Yes, please.
Great. So yes, we did increase the width of the garage door by 2 feet, and we felt it was really not of any meaningful impact to the facade. The main reason for doing that is we are trying to optimize the amount of parking, which previously was a code requirement, but that has since relaxed because of Title 25. But our clients still want to maximize the amount of car parking that can be provided in the premises. So we explored 2 types of stacking systems, one of which is, I guess, it's a significantly cheaper system of car stacking versus another one, which is a puzzle system, which requires us to switch to a 3-phase panel the existing supply is not. So we just thought that if you're actually able to adjust the parking spaces a little bit better so that it's easy to back out from the garage, for all the cars that are maneuvering, what you would notice is a pretty complex layout of cars that are really been fine-tuned to work and address a lot of requirements in terms of not backing into the street. So there's a turntable, there's a stacker, and there's an accessible parking space, and there is a static parking space. So with all these constraints, we felt like just adding another 2 feet to the width of the door was a reasonable trade-off. So that's that. I think the second question was about the inset. Yes, the entry is inset. We do want to give it a little bit of, I guess, a little bit of texture and depth to that facade. And even the windows that are abutting at the storefront, those are inset to make room for some planters, which we are accommodating on the face of the building, on the facade of the building, because the original intent was to provide trees along Howard, but that's not possible because of a stormwater drain line that runs under the sidewalk. So we're not able to accommodate that, but we did think it would be a nice gesture to accommodate some green against the edge of the building on the entry facade. So that's what justifies, I guess, some of the undulations on that face of the building.
Great. Thank you very much.
I have a question for the applicant.
Yep.
I have a quick question. So on your drawings, your current drawings, the second story has changed pretty dramatically from the first drawings, where you had a lot more doors and window. I don't know if those are nano doors on the first rendition. And so are you saying you're just going to do windows up there and not nano doors any longer? Is that, that's what I'm seeing from the.
So I think you're talking about the access to the roof deck. So it was a more grand door window system in the prior iteration. It may have been bifolds, I can't recall, but the extent of the glazing is still the same, but the bay that abuts one flight of the stair, that just becomes a fixed window, and it's a 2-panel slider that abuts it. That's right adjacent to it. And I don't think we've had that many other, increases in terms of either the footprint of the building or in terms of the extent of glazing from the past submission to the present one.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I'm going to put this in the form of a question. So, you mentioned that the windows, I'll just call it the building front, the unit is set back, right? Is that like a foot, 6 inch? Can you tell me what that depth is? Just about sort of.
Yeah, sure. I think we're talking about a 14-inch deep metal planter there. That's right outside the windows, but I think we have approximately 3.5 feet of an inset where you have the chamfered wall sort of, which leads to your main entry doors.
Right. So, did you consider that this building, is, I think that's what the commissioners liked before the last time around. Has some very interesting things going on with the two front, the sort of pizza slice pieces going in currently, which is really beautiful. I wondered if you considered just doing something like that or similar on that plant, or that it's more like a slice, like a pie shape rather than just flat, because it's not a whole lot of depth. And the second question is the current building does have a lot of depth. It almost is like a streamlined modern with that. I guess it's sunshade. I don't know what the proper word is. That vertical or horizontal element is really quite lovely. And I'm wondering if you considered that to kind of give a depth that the current building has which is quite nice with the shadows and kind of break up the materials and such so that we have a nice continuous. I wondered if you considered that, I guess, I'm gonna ask that, to mimic what is there.
I mean, I would say that taking that one move and amplifying it at the entry by recessing just the entry was, I think that was our way of, acknowledging the existing building geometry there. And I think just the facade that we're providing here, this really delicate, beautiful cladding of these wood-like louvers and the inset store from windows, increasing the amount of glazing and glass that you have on the facade. I think that all of that, a combination of that, does a really good job of, I think, bringing articulation and detail and craft to the building. So we feel pretty good about, what we're doing here by way of an intervention at this really nice corner for the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, and do we have any members of the public attending in person who speak on this item, or did we receive any public comment emails?
Let's see. No public comment emails on this item.
Okay, then I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have any comments or motion?
I have a quick comment, and I asked my fellow commissioners what thought is. In a lot of these kind of roof decks, we ask the applicant to put in some screening or some planters with some trees. And I just would like my fellow commissioners to just some feedback from you guys on what you think about that for this particular project on the roof deck.
One of the renderings does show some,
Yeah, but I'm thinking
not a screen, but
something taller just to kind of soften it up there. But, it's not
commercial.
not really, it's kind of bothering me, but not really. That's why I'm just bringing it.
I feel like if you did that, it would add more mass to it from the street, which is this
Yeah.
kind of tucked away on top, which is a little bit nice. But I hear what
Yeah.
you're saying. It's just because it's a commercial space and it's so far recessed on it's kind of nice that you won't see much of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I'm good with it.
I will, go ahead. I was just going to comment as one of the commissioners that was on the commission when this project was before us last. I don't recall, I remember a lot of discussion about the parking inside and the arrangement of the parking, but I don't recall us being against a larger garage door. In this case, as the applicant was saying, I don't feel like significantly it looks that different, that the proposed garage door is 2 feet wider. So, and not recalling that we had an issue about that before, I'm okay with that proposed garage door size. I do recall a lot of discussion about trying to get some planters in the front. So it looks like with this proposed design, there's a deeper planting bed area than what was originally proposed, if I'm reading it correctly. So it looks fairly shallow on the originally approved drawings, and now they look a little bit deeper. Agree with the applicant that the addressing of weather protection and shade over the entry door has been handled by the recessed front door area. This building, I think, is mainly at the front, is oriented northwest. So it's generally getting indirect light. And so I'm not as concerned about too much requirement of shade along that front facade. And that wasn't originally approved design without the overhang. So that just getting back to you, Chair Pfaff, about just some recollection of the history of our.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I like the proposed changes. I don't think that the upstairs extension is so significant that it's changing much of our perspective of it from a street level. I think there's some reduction in class now too. or maybe it's about the same, just rearranged. But I think this is approvable, and so those are my comments.
I'm going to continue on, since I was not a commissioner, but I did have thoughts about it at the time, and I find it very, I understand it's trying to be industrial, but there's just something about it that has a sterile look to it, and I know there's some interesting materials here. I just feel like it could be improved with a breaking up that, I don't know how tall that building is. I should know, but how tall from the sidewalk up?
About
14 feet. Yeah, I think it would be better with a horizontal, with some kind of, not necessarily for shade, but I called it a sunshade because I don't know the right word, but just to make it look less prominent. It's a corner. Unfortunately, there's not going to be trees allowed on the street, which is very unfortunate. It's not their fault. I feel like it needs to set in better. And it looks, to me, it looks a little like, and it always did, with a cake on the top. So that's just my opinion, but thanks.
There you go. Sure. So I was on the commission at the time. I don't remember any heartburn about this project other than it's really the left side next to the neighbor with the residential house, and us trying to, minimize the shading and impact of that second story to that, which really hasn't changed from one generation to the next. And I think that the changes that they've made are actually pretty minor in the big scheme of things. I have no heartburn with that door. It's a fairly blank site anyway, so the 2 extra feet of door doesn't bother me at all. I too would love to see the trees on the street, but understand why we can't. And I think that would help this, section of street, but that's the way it is. But I supported it then, and I think it's still a good project now. So I don't have any issues.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't have any major outstanding issues. I will say with the garage door, I'm not concerned about the size of it, but because it has become larger, it is taking away one of those sets of windows that's on the current building. Currently 4, under this design, there will be 3. It would be nice if that door could be shortened a little bit or moved over so that we could keep 4 windows, which right now doesn't mean a lot because that side of the street faces a parking lot. So right now it doesn't matter, but that parcel is probably going to see different uses over the coming years. The street goes directly towards one of those new farmhouse style apartment complexes that was built just on the next block. And so a lot of people walk from here to get to downtown Burlingame. And so more eyes on the street would be nice. And so it would be nice if we could keep 4 windows instead of 3. Other than that, I don't have any major issues. It would be nice to see. I think that the storefront will look better in person with how the windows are set back with the planters. Right now, it does look a little flat on the renderings. But yeah, other than that, that's all I gotta say.
I just had a thought. I was just have a black marker and I kind of did a thicker lac trim around the entire perimeter of just the front. And I'm wondering if you did a little bit of that, kind of maybe breaks up that longness, at least in the front. I don't think you have to do anything on the side, but I don't know. I just kind of drawing it in thought, oh, well, that kind of breaks that up a little bit. I was doing a commissioner say, it's just more thicker, just right around the perimeter of the front.
Like it. Good.
Kind of wrap a metal piece around.
Yeah.
the-
I don't know what type of material. I'm not a contractor. I don't
Looks better to me.
know, but you guys, I mean, something that maybe just causes a little bit more thickness, breaks it up, maybe gives that front elevation, that front door a little pop. I'd like to see that, and I thought that maybe that's an idea. But I do like the project, and I don't have a problem with the garage door or anything else.
Do we have any motions?
I'll make a motion that we approve as presented.
I second it.
So just to clarify, this is design review, so it could go to consent or action, but we are not able to approve it tonight.
Mm.
I would like the applicant to at least look at that. I don't, it's not a
Yeah.
do it, but I would like to see if they could come back to us on this next go round and just see if they can incorporate something on that front, and bring it back to action.
So then I will modify my motion to be bringing it back to action.
And I'll second that again.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Schmidt and a second by Commissioner Say. Any discussion on that motion?
With the caveat that they look at that, is that included in the motion? Or is that just two of us that would be a good thing?
No, I
Is that good?
would agree.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that's part of the motion and they should definitely read our notes. Our minutes.
Mhm.
Any other discussion? Okay, may we please have a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Horan,
Aye.
Commissioner Foff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Aye.
Commissioner Shores.
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
and Acting Chair Lowenthal.
Aye. So that passes 7-0-0-0. And that action is not appealable either. Congratulations. We'll see you on action. Agenda item number 11, commission reports. Are there any commissioner reports? No?
I think so.
Okay. Agenda item number 12, director reports. Are there any director reports?
So there are no FYIs or any kind of memo like that. I do want to report a couple things. Council, first is, I'm sure you're all aware, there's a new mayor. We did the mayoral rotation at the December 18th meeting. So Donna Colson is Mayor Colson for the next year. And then also very exciting is the housing element was approved by the city council following the recommendation of the planning commission. So that allows everything to go as it should. And everybody's happy with that too. So thank you for your input through the process on that. And it turned out well.
So could I just ask what happens now? It just goes to the state and it gets hopefully a stamp, or what happens?
So the state already gave it conditional approval, so we do have to send them the final adopted version and check to make sure that what's adopted is what they last saw. And they're doing that right now. But otherwise, and then the other happy outcome was, as you may have been aware, there was a lawsuit related to the city's failure to adopt the housing element in a timely manner. That lawsuit will be dismissed by the litigant, given that basically the housing element has been completed as was requested, and that's all done.
Okay, agenda item number 13. Are there any other future agenda items? No. Okay, then we will adjourn the meeting at 9:26 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you.